It's #2. So let's get on with it.
Everyone, just briefly.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, Chris.
Cheers about the star, everybody. Nobody comes in.
Yeah. That's why I'm out here, Chris.
Sorry, mate.
Seeing as I'm the last session of the day, I thought I'd take advantage of that, and I've got a lot more content. We'll overrun a bit. Nobody minds missing the start of the match, right? No. So my session today is officially titled Stop Shipping Apps, Start Shipping Outcomes, which we'll get to more to the end of the presentation. First of all, part of my role for Windows 365 for Agents, I am a principal product manager for Microsoft working on Windows 365 for Agents, forgot to mention that. Part of my role is evangelism, and the metrics I get measured on are posts and mentions and tags on LinkedIn. That is part of how they measure my impact.
But you've got the wrong shirt on, Tim.
Yes, it does. It directly affects my bonus, yes.
Should we take the picture now and then post that on LinkedIn, or do you want to flick a slide?
There you go.
Got it.
Everyone says
Right.
his name subtly wrong.
Yeah.
Great presentation from Chris Moyle.
G Moyle.
We are going to be late if you carry on like this.
You started it.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. All right. So, obviously, we're going to be talking about AI and agentic AI in this session. Most people's interaction with AI is currently a chatbot. Yeah. Who in this room is that their main interaction with AI? Stick your hand up. Yep. So, when I first came across that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Feels like a bit of a better search engine. Saves me a bit of time. Is that worth the billions of dollars that's been invested in, trillions that's been invested in this technology to give me a slightly better search? Wasn't convinced. What really convinced me is the workflow that I'm going to show you in a while. If you're prompting and you're doing a chatbot-like experience, this is what makes a great prompt. You tell it in detail what you're trying to do. You give it context. Now, a lot of other sessions have talked about context today. So, what background information does the AI need to understand? So, the more context you give a prompt, the less likely it is to hallucinate. Constraints. What shouldn't it be doing? What are the boundaries to what it should make up? How authoritative do you need it to sound? Do you need it to reference any facts or figures in that reply? And the output is, what format should that answer be returned? What's the audience for this reply? Is it just for you? Is it something you're creating for leadership team? Blah, blah, blah. Now, this makes prompts a bit annoying because you just want a simple blah, but you have to supply all of this stuff to make the answer more useful and less likely to hallucinate. And it makes it more of a time investment to use that chatbot. However, you can use AI in what broadly classes 3 ways. So retrieval is your chatbot type experience. Task is where your agentic AI starts coming in. So you're telling your AI agent to do a task. It's usually a discrete task that is well boundaried. But it will actually go and do something. It can update a document, it can add to something via an API, it can do stuff. And then autonomous becomes slightly different. So autonomous means it can operate independently, dynamically plan and learn from the process, and adapt to changing conditions without human human interface. So you can do agent-to-agent stuff, and this is the kind of autonomous workflow that I'm going to talk to you about. So in terms of a task-based workflow, you know I said it can update a doc, or maybe it can update an application that's got an API. If that application's got an API, what you need is something called an MCP server sat in front of that API. This exposes the API in terms of tools that a large language model can interpret, so that you can enter natural language and it can translate that into an API call to an application. Who here has used WorkIQ? It's about to be renamed to AppIQ from Copilot. Okay. So this is a very advanced MCP server that Microsoft provides as part of Copilot. It can see everything in Outlook, it can see everything in Teams, it can see everything in SharePoint, and can make decisions on all of that depending on what you tell it to. There's an agent called Cowork inside of Copilot, which I introduced Ben Ward to earlier. He's not in the audience, that's great. Oh, there he is. There he is.
Very impressed, Jim.
Very impressed, you hear that? And that is more sort of task-based. But it means that anything that is effectively governed by Entra IDE in your tenant, WorkIQ can go and talk to. So in terms of that context I was telling you about, you can say, look at my meeting that, and then tell me all the people who spoke. Something easy. If you want to look at other applications, so here's the top 5 of a list of a couple of hundred public MCP servers that are available to you. Now, in order to create an MCP server, you need to have a well-defined REST API, and you need to have the skills to write the MCP server. So you see that a lot of very popular SaaS applications have got MCP servers. However, you will run into a lot of applications, even if they're web-based, even if they have a well-defined REST API, which don't have an MCP server. This means they're very difficult to address with a large language model. But there are still a lot of MCP servers out there, and they're very good. Some of them are open source community based, which as enterprise people we all know we love putting that kind of things into production. So be careful about, oh, I found an MCP server, let's just use it, work out where it's from. If there isn't an MCP server, then a computer using agent is your answer. And this means that the agent can control the GUI. So whether it's a browser, whether it's a Windows application, then you can actually get inside a session that computer to use and interact with all of those applications. So now we've got 2 ways to do agentic work. We've got an MCP server to do things with an API, and we've got a computer user agent to do stuff where an MCP server isn't possible or where you don't trust that MCP server. I'll do you a quick demo of a computer using agent. So this is from a company called Simula. This is their product called Sign. And it's doing a task-based workflow where they're taking handwritten insurance claim forms, batching those up over time, and entering them into an old school app. So this is very different from just OCR and UI automation, because it will go back and check and read what's actually happened, and if it hasn't got it right, it can then go back and fix it. Yeah, so it's non-deterministic.
Do you mean by that it's not, better word, scripted?
Yes,
Tab,
it's
tab,
not.
tab, tab.
It's not scripted. You just put natural language instructions, and the agent works out what to do from those natural language instructions. And if it hasn't got it quite right or is not getting the result that it thinks it should, it will go back to the UI and change it until it has got the right result. So nobody's saying the field is this, it's fill out this form. It's a bit more complicated than that, but essentially, you know, it's natural language instructions rather than code.
So you wouldn't put it at the old school HLP file and, you know, or a manual on how to do it.
I mean, you could add in that information as context, absolutely. And when they build the agents, the sort of how the agent learns stuff is you give it context at the creation of the agent, and the manual on the user guide on how to use the application would be part of that. So because this is task-based, you give it the right context for the task it's doing, the right boundaries for the task it's doing. So remember that great prompt slide that I had with like context, boundaries, and outcome. You're still applying that same logic here, but it's the agent, it's the original instructions to the agent that has that boundaries, and then you've got an autonomous task worker in the background running through it. So, clause. Who knows OpenClaw? Yes. Microsoft is bringing out an implementation, it's called Scout, and lots of other people have got various other implementations of the OpenClaw architecture. So this is truly autonomous, and it's the combination of a autonomous agent that can do QA and do MCP. And it can talk, all those agents can talk to each other and do very complicated tasks. A lot of people will use an OpenClaw in just their instance of the laptop. There's all these memes with people carrying open laptops around airports, because if they close the laptop, the claw stops and their work stops. OpenClaw's got an interesting architecture. It's concerned of a gateway where the logic is, and a node where the execution layer is. And they're linked together by a loopback network port when people are using it on just their machine. You can split out the logic and the execution layer, the gateway and the node, onto different machines, and instead of doing a loopback network connection, you just do a network connection. So that's an interesting architecture, because then you have the ability to, say, run that execution layer in the cloud, and you don't have to worry about your laptop anymore. Now, if you've used any kind of agentic experience, it will ask you for permission to do stuff a lot. Yeah? A lot. Allow this command this one time, allow these commands in this section, allow this type of thing in this workspace. Always allow this kind of thing. And it's particularly bad with PowerShell, because it'll have a long string of PowerShell. The first command is get content, but then it'll do a whole load of stuff with get content, and the prompt will be allow get content, and that get content's fine. But it isn't taking account of the rest of the PowerShell, so you should look at it. Some people get very bored of clicking yes, please, allow this. There is an option within a claw called YOLO mode. YOLO mode means never ask me for permissions for anything. And bear in mind, it's acting under your account. So there is no way for the back end to differentiate between your action and the agent's action. Be very careful with YOLO mode.
It should be a Russian roulette picture.
Has anybody used OpenClaw? One. Do you turn YOLO mode on? No.
No comment.
I was at the Irish user group, and one of the MVPs there was like, "Yeah, I did that this morning. Got too bored of hitting yes on the permissions." So even intelligent people who are security aware are still doing YOLO mode. Is this going to become popular? So I'll share about my experience in a second. But there's going to be 1.3 billion AI agents automating workflows. If those agents are like Cuba, then they need somewhere to run. That somewhere to run is either going to be a Windows or a Linux VM. Hopefully not that YOLO mode on a laptop. So, as EUC professionals, our estate that we're looking after is currently humans logging onto Windows VMs. I would say that in the next 2 or 3 years, what we're looking after, a large portion of that is not going to be that. It's going to be agents logging onto Windows VMs. Now, all of that governance, observability, auditability, all needs to be done, whether it's an agent or whether it's a human. But there's extra stuff with agents. You remember in the demo, you could see exactly what was happening? That kind of governance and auditability is then returned to the control plane, and you can do stuff with that. So you need to be able to see what these agents are doing in an enterprise, especially where you've got compliance and etc. These are some of the stuff that is probably going to end up being agentic AI. I'm not going to go through them all, but I'll happily share the deck with you afterwards. It's just pictures mainly, but that'll be fine. So, whether you've got OpenClaw, whether you've got any other implementations of agents on people's VMs, on people's laptops, they might not even be managed laptops. It is the wild, wild west out there right now. It absolutely is. So, and Adam was making this point earlier in his session. As EUC professionals, we already have the skill sets to manage this wild west. Because this is agents logging on and doing stuff. So we can enforce security. We can enforce permission and boundaries. We can enforce governance and compliance. But if we don't do it, everybody's going to do this anyway. That old phrase, shadow IT, is going to be huge. I told the story in Adam's session. One of my family members, despite it being banned within his organisation, he's a team lead. He does everybody's yearly review for promotions and bonuses, and he just puts it all into Grok, which I would not suggest that we do.
No personally identifiable information there.
Nope. So like I said, it's the Wild West. So security controls, auditability, scaling as well, inefficient use of compute resources, and a high operational overhead as you try and cope with this on a case-by-case basis. You need to give people the tools to do this, or they will write them, invent them, download them themselves, and then you're in a nightmare. So what about my experience with agentic AI? So my workflow has completely changed in the last 2 months. The way I get work done, how I get work done, is absolutely different than it was 2 months ago. So previously, this is my capability. And now I have a second brain to help me. Who knows the phrase second brain? Who has a second brain?
Not one to trust.
So a second brain is, remember that prompt slide that I came back to before, where it goes context, boundaries, and audience? Yeah? My second brain is very, very, very good at providing all of those three. And it does it by holding a set of markdown files, which I sync between machines using a GitHub repository. I haven't written any of these markdown files. they've been written by the agent. So I'll show you what's in there, and just bear in mind that I've never written a single word of this. Yeah? So in terms of context, one of the most important contexts that I have is people. Who do I speak to on a regular basis? What is my relationship to those people? What projects do they work on? What is their relationship to other people? So here is an example of my colleague Megan, who I work with quite closely. And I have a people card for her in Markdown. Markdown is useful because it's human readable and machine readable. Context, working style, personal notes. There's a whole load underneath this that I would have to black out anyway because it's all NDA stuff. Or personal information. It's just a bad thing. But it means that I have a record of who they are and how they like to work. I also have like stuff like name pronunciation guides. So if it's somebody's name I don't know off by heart, I'll have a pronunciation guide in here. So if I have people cards for everybody I work with and interact with, quite often you have to do introductions. Everybody's written thousands of introduction emails. They are dull. But a good introduction email is great. My past introduction email style was you, meet, bye. I've got people cards for Lee Jeffries and Neil Spellings. So I asked it to make up an introduction email for Lee to Neil. So I just said, introduce Lee to Neil in an email. That's all the prompts. But because I have the people cards, and they have context in those people cards, then I can get this sort of result. That's very useful. When you're actually in a professional context, it will name the workflow, the project that they're on together, what the expectations are, what the actions should be, what the time frame is, and it's a nice email.
Jim, what was the input to that data? Was it email signatures, or is it accessing LinkedIn, or how is it accessing the data?
So, I'll get into that in a second,
Okay.
if that's all right. One of the other things that I have to do all the time is reframing. So, I'll have a set of meetings about a project. I'll make some technical decisions with the developers. I'll make some strategic decisions with the leadership team. And I'll write all this down. And previously, I'll get a message saying, give me a progress report to my third level skip on this project. Okay, well that's a specific audience. So I'll take the facts I have and I will write a document that is for that specific audience. Or, what's the technical details for this particular feature of this product? And then I'll write a doc or write an email for that developer in a very technical focused way, without any of the strategy bump, very task oriented, very outcomes oriented. It's the same information at the bottom, but I've had to spend my time writing two different docs. If I have the information stored in my second brain, I don't have to write the docs again. I can just say, I remember I have the people cards, yep, and I have the information on the project. So that context is there, because in the people card for Bavia, who's my skip level boss, it knows that she's in that point in my management chain, so it can infer this type of language I use. Now, if you just said to them, how do you communicate? I say, well, I have decades of experience in EUC. I'm a very complicated chap. You know, things are tailored to the individual audience I'm talking to. So I got my second brain to look at all of my communication over the past few years and condense it into a voice prompt. So when it wrote, it sounded like me. So I thought this would be a very long document. Unfortunately, I can be condensed into 15 lines.
I'm amazed it's not all in capitals.
It changes slightly at 9 p.m. at night.
Comic Sans.
So I have a voice prompt for LinkedIn posts, I have a voice prompt for emails, I have a voice prompt for writing docs, I have a voice prompt for presentations, because those are different styles. And I've got my second brain to learn those voices and then apply them in the right context. So let's say I've just had a meeting. Now, there is things called skills, which again are just natural language markdown files, it's just instructions for a repeatable process. But again, it's not declarative, it's not scripted, it's natural language instructions. So I've just had a meeting and I've just got a transcript. This first one everybody's real familiar with. Synthesize this meeting, right? What are the actions, owners, etc. Everybody does that. It's very useful, thank you very much. However, I'm not in Outlook when I'm doing this. I'm actually in VS Code. And I'm using that WorkIQ MCP to pull the meeting data into my second brain. And it's producing the action items and the information there. So this is taking that unstructured transcript and creating structured data. So it will create the people cards and it will create relationships. Now, if they're at Microsoft.com, I use WorkIQ to go and pull their information from our internal database, CAL, whatever you want to call it. I'll try it. If they're not, then I've also got an NCP server for LinkedIn, and it will go and pull their information from LinkedIn. I've also got a list, because whoever is and is not as an MVP is useful to me. So I've got a list of MVPs, and it will look at that and fill out whether they're an MVP or not. So if you looked at that intro email I did between Lee and Neil, it pulled out that Neil was an MVP. I haven't got a field that says former for you.
I am still an MVP.
Are you still an MVP? It says former MVP on your LinkedIn.
No, you haven't told me yet.
No, former CTP.
Former CTP, that's it.
Yeah.
So I need to add that in.
Or there's something I don't know about, Jim.
Well, I'm sorry this is the place you got to hear about it, Lee.
Take fun of these update LinkedIn database.
Yeah. We'll update the person context notes with new information. What was the last touch point you had with them? What did you talk about? If there's new people, I've got a bootstrap for new people cards which will go and find their information and fill out those people cards, including who they work for, so their partners, etc. Not partners. if they work for a partner. Oh, that'd be a bad use, wouldn't it? So, if it's a new company that I'm interacting with, then I also have company cards that will have the same kind of bootstrap and the same kind of history of my interaction, and I have another skill which is part of the comms skill, but I'm not going to attempt to talk to that about. By the way, this isn't slideware. I asked my second brain, what have you done with the meeting synthesis skill? So these are all points that I actually do and I pull from my history. If there's an action that needs updating, we use ADO, Azure DevOps, for tracking pretty much everything inside a product team at Microsoft. That is the source of truth for people outside of me. So I make sure that the information in my second brain, where it's relevant, does not stay there. It is populated to the apps and information centers that need that data. So people who aren't me can go and access that information. This happens automatically. So if I've got tasks, I'll generate a task in ADO, assign it to myself. I'll update new scenarios, new deliverables, and new comments on ADO depending on the actions that were taken or decided on in the meeting. And that will create those ADO items for me via the ADO MCP server. It will also update the source of truth. So if I'm working on a product feature and I've had a massive workshop with devs and we've taken a whole load of product decisions, technical decisions about how that feature is going to work, then I'll make sure that's reflected in the source of truth for that product inside my second brain and updated in ADO where necessary. Maintains traceability, so I can say when that decision was taken, who agreed to that decision, and flag any assumptions or follow-ups that I need to do. Artifact creation. Status updates. So if I've said, actually, if the decision interacts with this, I need to provide a status update for that person. I can also create project sync documents, decision logs, leadership update comms if it's like the end of the week and I need to. One of the senior PMs for Windows 365 for Agents is in Australia, so we've got to work async. So I make sure that if there's an important change that's happened or been decided on, that he's informed by update communications. None of this I do. This is all set up in my meeting process skill. None of this all happens. It happens dependent on conditions of that transcript of that meeting. I just say process the meeting. I do have checkpoints to say, yes, this is the correct thing to do, and no, this is not. But they're getting less and less with time as I update the skill to be better and better. Because I'm giving it more and more context, more and more boundaries, and as I have more people cards and build up my relationship, then I've got that audience nailed down as well. So that prompt slide, this is all being built out in the back end. All of these pieces of information are linked to each other. Bear in mind, I don't write any of this, right? Inside these markdown files, if there's a people card and there's a partner card, those two will be linked to each other to say this person works for this partner, these people work for that partner, these people are engaged in this particular feature, so they're all indexed.
How are you doing the linking?
That happens automatically. There's a syntax within Markdown that, that my second brain knows, so it's just a bit of text.
I had a question you got me thinking, but I can leave it to the end if you want.
Go for it.
So, you know the artifact slide?
Yeah.
So you create a status report, you update ADO, and you're doing that because someone at the other end says, do one every Friday.
Yep.
They consume it.
Yep.
They might, in their AI, say, well, all my status reports from my team it feels like we've got a step. It's like email replaced the paper and the fax. But I suppose where I'm going is, why can't your boss just go, well, I've got access to your inbox anyway. I'm just going to ask.
I don't want my boss to have access to my inbox.
What, has he not?
No.
So I was working with one customer who threw that kind of scenario at me. Sorry, not customer, friend and family. And he said, every Friday he gets the status reports in, and the team spend quite a while going through their emails to create their status. But he's got access to everyone's inboxes.
But
Why not just ask the question and avoid?
I think if he's got access to their inboxes, then why is he fucking asking them?
Well, because it takes them 3 hours to summarise it.
Yeah. So he's got if he's got an MTB server.
He's got no AI.
Right.
Just.
So that's just make work, isn't it? Yeah. Because if he's got access to the data, then he should be able to say, create a skill, say every Friday, give me a status update.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But I suppose where I was going was, do you feel like you fixed your problem, and then but then two people are using AI to A, create it, B, to consume it, just wasted tokens and resources?
So I know what you're doing, right? Because
I don't know.
so sometimes it feels like you're taking a few bullet points, making a big load of text, and then somebody's receiving that big load of text and then condensing it to bullet points, right?
So what? It's like, who's doing what with all this stuff? And then it all gets trued up into...
But it's essentially, the people have asked for this information in that format. Yeah? So I'm giving it to them in the framing and the format that they wanted, without me having to do that work, because I've already got the data. Yeah? If they want bullet points, I can give it in bullet points. If they want it in a 24-page Word document, I can do that too. It's about how people are working. Yeah. I mean, if they want to just query ADO and not even ask me, great. But however that person wants to work, I don't have to spend my time reframing all the facts that I have to make it into a content that they want. Yeah.
Do you think there's be a time though where they want something in the status report every Friday, comes to you, your AI figures out what it was, and it just gives you like the guardrail to
Yeah.
like. So you're not even had to do all that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's sorry.
So within the core framework, there is a way you can get agents talk to agents. So that would have access to my second brain, and there would be a skill there set up to say if you get this agents. So yes, that is absolutely
You
possible.
still got control.
You still
so
got
it's not
control, but yeah, you don't have to even bother typing the prompt in.
Yeah, I suppose that's where I was going. Yeah, is that a thing?
So everything's connected. Sorry, Adam.
Sorry, so I set up something quite similar. What I found was that we ended up with a lot of metadata issues, mostly to do with temporal validation and fact extraction. So standardizing entities and objects and relationships so that they actually ended up clean, and then also having that fact extraction become temporally validated so that you can invalidate old facts and things that change over time. And what we found was that we ended up with very severe context rot, and so we put a lot of standardization of schemas, standardization of metadata on top of those entities and relationships.
So I wasn't going to get into that, but that's a good point. Within Microsoft, for this, we have standardized templates for second brains that will give standardized skills, that will give data in a standardized format. So yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
So for instance, like I was talking about the partner cards. So this one for Nerdio. No surprises that I am talking to Christian Brinker for Nerdio. I've blurred everybody else's names out. But all of this has information. This is the bootstrap for the partner card. So you can see sort of like I have got scaffolding according to that template for everybody. And this is how I bootstrap a new partner. To give you an example, so this came in as a Teams message to me. And this is a very broad ask. It's quite annoying. Especially seeing as this at the time it came to me.
Right.
However, because I had all that information in my second brain, there was enough there, so I know the person that sent it to me, I have a people card for them, so they know what relationship it is. I know it's for a newsletter, I know it's monthly, so I've got a time constraint. So I can say, provide this information to this person for the last 4 weeks, according to the partner interactions I've had. And it came out with something, and that was their reaction. And it took me 2 minutes. That would have been, I would have like been pissed off with that person for a week at least if I'd have had to actually do that work.
Did you get it from more than just emails, like transcribed meetings?
Yep.
So, because that's where
Everything.
So
So
loads of stuff.
so nowadays I transcribe absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. Because this is how it gets into my second brain.
That's where I was headed. Because transcribing's been around for ages, but it's always just sat there.
Yeah.
And it's too much to go through. All right, look for summarisations now, but that's where actually it becomes useful.
Yeah.
How are you actually transcribing, meet space meetings, face to face? You say you transcribe everything.
Facilitator.
Autoplay,
So
Oh, let's go on.
You can do it on your phone.
Fathom.
So I make sure that I transcribe it using a tool that is only ever local, that never escapes into the public cloud.
Which is
Which is actually the Google Recorder on a Pixel. That is an extremely good transcription, but it doesn't put it out into the cloud. Yeah, it's not used for learning for a public AI model.
and then
Yeah.
you upload it into your.
And then I'll upload it into my OneDrive or whatever.
I'm sure you can do it in Teams now on your phones.
It's not a great experience though, is it?
You invite yourself on.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
But I might be in a Teams meeting with somebody else, but they've organised it, so I can't transcribe it.
Have
Yeah.
you tried
We'd love to do
facilitator
that.
in Teams off your phone?
That's a good idea. I haven't tried that.
It's
I'm open to ideas here. It is a feature request to Teams that you can do both sides transcription for this very purpose.
how do you find the accuracy on transcription?
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
I struggle. I think it's my accent. So
Say
sometimes it's with me because it can't distinguish between whether I've said can or can't, which is really important in workshops.
Yes.
So I struggle with it sometimes. I'm a bit like,
But
ooh.
yeah, but with all these things, right? Human oversight is necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, probably a daft question, so lots of other intelligent questions, so I'm going to throw a daft one. Going back to the point where you had agents completing tasks within their virtual desktop, obviously they're not going to be constrained by the 8 to 6, Monday to Friday timescales of humans.
Yep.
So can you see a point where help desks are going to have to be manned 24/7, or a company's going to start to only run these things at certain hours of the day? Or do you think we'll get to a point where everyone's going to be running these things out of hours, and we're going to have to think of
So-
compute resources, all that stuff?
So there's this sort of like feedback loop where you're increasing trust in the agent. So first of all, yeah, you're running an agent, you'll observe everything, you'll make sure it's doing stuff. But as you refine the instructions or the skills or whatever, then you gradually increase trust and you decrease the errors. And you'll get to a point, hopefully, where that trust in that agent has increased that you can run it out of hours. But you have to get there, you have to go through the process. I'm going to carry on because I'm short on time. I hate opening apps now. Because I live in my second brain. And I can produce the content, and anything that's got an MCP, or I've done a skill with a QA, that's fine. But I still find myself occasionally having to drop out to open an app. This isn't just because it gets in the way of my workflow. It's because the return from that app isn't automatically indexed into my second brain. It's now a piece of data that I've effectively lost that should be connected, indexed, and linked so I can rely on it later. So, you know when I said stop shipping apps, start shipping outcomes. Yeah, so this is where that comes in. This way of working has been a sea change for me. Out of my entire working career, this has been the biggest differentiator since the internet for me. And everybody I talk to who's using this same kind of workflow feels the same way. So I think that this is going to be huge. The interfaces will get simpler, it won't be so techy, you won't need to know what a markdown file is. This will become significantly simpler. And we as EUC professionals will be the platform and the governance for these agents, or we should be. We have the skill set, as Adam said before. And one of the problems I've got with it, my phone's useless now, because I access my second brain through my laptop and I haven't got an interface to do so on my phone.
Claude will
So
make you one.
Yeah, if I've got that.
somebody probably has. I just haven't had time to look for it. There's probably a solution. The next question everybody asked is, oh, that must cost a lot of money, Jim. You work for Microsoft, do you get all your tokens for free? Which is true. However, I can see how much my tokens cost. Bear in mind, this is the to Microsoft cost, and it isn't the to the general public cost. However, so last month I used 216 million tokens.
On what model?
I will show you in a second.
I have questions.
And it costs less than $100 to Microsoft. In terms of cost of technology, this is the cost of lighting since 1300, adjusted for inflation. So this is about 5 60-watt light bulbs. Used to cost the equivalent of £35,000 a year to somebody to provide themselves with that amount of lighting. Over time, over a long time in Italy, it's gone down to pretty much zero. So £2 per year to provide that exact same amount of lighting. This is the price of solar per watt. Very similar graph. And you can look at any broadly adopted technology and you get this graph. And the closer you get to the present day, the steeper the graph is. It doesn't take 700 years like it did for lighting. It takes 30 for solar. And the same will be true for tokens. In terms of what models, here's my data of all the models that I used over the last month to generate those, or consume those 216 million tokens. So what I would ask is, have a go at creating a second brain. It is supremely useful. This agentic AI way of working is unreal. Give it a go. I've taken some questions and I realise, well, pretty much bang on time, but I can maybe spare a couple if you've got another couple of questions.
For us mere mortals, just your codex tokens would be $1,400 a month.
This is why I showed these graphs.
Jim, from legally, who owns your second brain if you're doing it at work?
So it's the same as my personal OneDrive. So the GitHub repo that I'm storing that second brain in is the equivalent to my personal OneDrive. So Microsoft owns it, and when I leave Microsoft, it will get deleted.
If you die, is it in your will that it gets deleted?
If I die, Microsoft will delete it.
Oh, okay.
Now, I do have a personal second brain that I use for all of my personal stuff, which I store in a personal GitHub repo. And I definitely pay for my own tokens for that. So that's not going to get deleted. But yeah, no, as soon as I realised how useful this was for work, so like I'm renovating my house, so every single PDF that I get from anybody around that, and there is a lot of admin to do with like planning permission and builders and quotes, that all goes in there. And I can say, you know, when's my insurance running out? Well, I'll have a reminder, blah, blah, and it's ingested all that information, and I use it for that. All right, one last question, and then we'll...
Isn't this going to make you super lazy? Like, aren't you going to not use it and lose it?
What do you make him super lazy?
Why do you think I invested the time up front to do this? You know that like every good admin is a lazy admin, but not every lazy admin is a good admin. It applies here.
Yeah, no, like you spend a lot of time writing a lot of PowerShell, right?
In the past, I didn't anymore.
Yeah, can you still do that though? Could you still knock out a script that you wrote?
I could, but I now have my writings. You know the voice thing I said for my I have a writing style for PowerShell that has all of my personal best practices in it, and I will get Copilot to write whatever PowerShell I want in my personal style that adheres to Microsoft standards, and then I can review it. I don't see the point in me worrying about syntax anymore.
You're being criticised for maybe being lazy, but would you say that it's increased your value? And
So,
measure that a little bit?
So the way I used to be lazy was like, maybe I didn't update ADL properly, maybe I kind of did a shitty job at doing a leadership doc that I hated doing, or I didn't bother writing a newsletter because, oh God, who wants to? Yeah? And I had different priorities. This means that the stuff that I consider make work, yeah, even if it might be necessary to the business to do it, I can do automatically now. And the being creative, taking decisions, interacting with people, which is what I consider the core of my work is still me, and I still do all of that. And like the partner introduction, I did 2 of those while I was sitting in a session today. Right? I don't need to think about it because I know what's going to happen. It's filling out the right forms essentially. I'm over time, and I do not wish to hold everybody up. Unless there's any, if there's burning questions, talk to me over a beer. How's that?
I'm good at that.
Great. Well, thank you very much.